Okay, guys. I hope everybody had a good dinner. I had my hamburger. I had extra from yesterday. What do you have, Lucy? Okay, then. So we had another great show, you guys. 276 views already. I got a copyright, but I can't believe I'm getting copyright all the time now.
Eagle Casino and
Okay, yeah, I don't know either. Hey, Paul, did you watch the first show? We had Mel on today. It was an hour, and then Billy was 20. We have like 280 already on the views already on it. I got two more military videos I'm gonna play too for 15. Where you been, Daniel? Come on. Yeah, open the window up for the baby. Sit down, Chico, please. So we're gonna do quite a bit of shorts for a bit. I got a lot of shorts. Tip, tip, tip. All right, ding, ding, ding time. I want to start on time because we got a lot to get out. I got to log in Telegram. Oh, I don't have to log in. It's on there now. Good. First one is 2 minutes.
Post office. She
sad.
believes that check was washed.
And she is just one of the many people who have reached out to KHOU 11 News after we first reported on a postal worker's arrest last week. Tonight, Megan Reyna is digging into exactly how these mail thieves may be pulling this off.
I'm outside the Oak Forest Postal Office where earlier this month, Jamie Forward dropped off a $24,000 check in this collection box, which is now wrapped in USPS labels. The Postal Service says they're not aware of this theft, but they're looking into it. And her story is not unique.
Starting 2021, we have seen a dramatic increase in the volume of washed checks.
An old scheme with renewed popularity. Criminals taking a check, dipping it in nail polish remover, or bleaching to erase the payee and amount. But cybersecurity expert and professor at Georgia State University, David Maimon, says more people are learning online not only how to wash checks, but cook them.
Cooking checks is essentially them, the criminal taking the original check, scanning the signatures from the check, taking all the information from the check, then go to Photoshop or any other software which will allow them to edit the check and then print new checks.
Maimon says it's happening everywhere, but several people across the Houston area reaching out to us, worrying that workers at the postal office may be in on the crime.
My financial person, actually, the admin there, had sent me a link to the report by KHOU that was on the website about something happening to someone similar in the Houston area. And so that's why I reached out, because obviously it's a larger problem.
Jamie Forward's $24,000 check intended for a retirement account for her and her business partner ended up in someone's account. Now she's having to work with Chase Bank and Houston police to try and get her money back.
It's a big hit for a small business like ours.
What can people do to prevent this from happening if they have to write that check and mail it?
I mean, I think that at this point, knowing what we know, I strongly recommend folks to simply avoid writing checks and mailing them using USPS.
Another popular tip has been to use gel pens, which are hard to chemically erase, but Maimon says that's not necessarily true because criminals can get around that too. Now, if you are a victim, the Postal Service says it's important not only to report the crime to police, but also the USPS Office of Inspector General. Reporting in Northwest Houston, Megan Brena, KHOU 11 News.
Oh, we pray and hope that they give her money back, I hope.
And stay unsafe for hundreds of years. And if radiation is the same thing, why does it act like two different monsters? Let's slow this way down, like explaining it to a kid playing with toy cars on the carpet. We're told bombs make a giant flash, loud noise, bright sky, then it's done. We're told reactors break slowly and poison land forever. Same word, radiation. Very different results. That's strange. If something is super dangerous, why doesn't it stay dangerous everywhere it touches? Why does danger have a timer in one story, but no timer in the other? Here's the brain twist. Schools, movies, textbooks, news clips, and science shows repeat this idea until it feels normal. Clean maps, old black and white photos, yellow warning signs, charts on chalkboards, men in lab coats, but real people walk, farm, build homes, and raise kids in places we were told were once hit by the worst weapon ever made. If this math doesn't work, what else did we accept without checking for ourselves? So don't rush to believe or fight online. Slow thinking wins. Ask how radiation is counted. Ask who owns the machines. Ask who pays for the tests. Why is it, do you think, that some danger just fades away so quickly, but other danger seems to last longer than anything you'd find in the history books? And, well, why are questions so often mocked instead of just answered? Curiosity, you know, it gives you freedom. But blind trust, yeah, that just hands over control. Think about heat for a second. A spark, it fades fast. A candle, well, that lasts a bit longer. A stove, it stays warm. And a factory furnace, that thing runs all day. It's the same heat, just a different setup. Now think about water too. A splash dries up. A leak that sticks around, but a flood that can change the land itself. Same water, totally different story. So, what if these stories are actually about systems, not a magic space science and spinning globes? What if our world is actually simpler, flatter, and a lot closer than we're taught? And fear is what keeps that lesson locked up tight. Don't just swallow headlines whole. Chew them slowly, yeah? Rewatch, listen again. Share your thoughts, not your anger. Save this, follow the page. And if this scratched your brain even a little bit, stick around, watch the next video, keep asking those quiet questions out loud, and remember.
Okay. Three minutes.
On the domestic side of the equation, they miss the British chessboard entirely. The City of London, British intelligence, the offshore financial system, the royalty. That's the fight we've been tracking at Promethean Action for decades. It's what makes our coverage very different. And if you want to see the world that most people don't even think exists, subscribe to our free newsletter. The link is in the description. But the real bigger truth here is that Donald Trump has called all their bluffs. Before Oren Koss went on Bannon to be cross-examined about Trump's American system of economics, he wrote an article in the New York Times calling out Wall Street and the City of London for the financialization schemes and crimes through which they have looted our economy. It's titled, "The Finance Industry is Grip. It's time to start treating it that way." He says his original title was How to Save Capitalism from the Capitalists. Here's a couple of his money quotes. In a financialized economy, businesses become mere sources of cash, assets to be manipulated and then operated for maximum investor returns. Workers become just another cost like lumber. Customers are just revenue streams to be tapped. It has corrupted sectors in which the profit motive was never meant to reign supreme in our country. Veterinary practices, funeral parlors, campgrounds, residential treatment services, youth sports, hospitals and nursing homes, even suppliers for volunteer fire departments. Consolidating and managing them with ruthless efficiency, squeezing the vulnerable customers and then pointing to the higher cash flow as somehow value creation. But that system has now failed. It's run out of chips, and the establishment can no longer hide the fact. Its final burial is due to the American system of economics being wielded now by the Trump administration. It puts the emphasis on raising productivity, raising workers' wages, investing in the infrastructure and the science and technologies of the future. That means banks must be lending money for these purposes. As Secretary Besson keeps emphasizing, it's now Main Street's turn. But the captured functionaries of the old system will go willingly without a fight. Their media and politicians censor the president's policies rather than explaining them to the American people. They're also pumping poison 24/7 to the American people about Donald Trump. Just look at these two exchanges with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in the House last week. He was there to report on the fundamental economic progress being made by President Trump. When the Treasury Secretary began to document the impact of illegal immigration on housing supply and costs, Ranking Member Maxine Waters called for him to be, quote, shut him up.
10 and 20 million.
Remember that one?
The housing stock of work.
So what's happening here, because they focus.
Okay, I got two of her, and I got two of the other lady. Hang it. I don't know, I'll play her. I got two on each.
With a statement that cut through all the legal noise.
It's my opinion that the court has been swayed by foreign interests and a political movement that is far smaller than people would ever think.
Foreign interests behind the Supreme Court. That's a serious charge, and most of the coverage will stop there. They'll obsess over who the president was angry at, Gorsuch, Roberts, or they will only focus on China, an obvious target. But if that's as far as you go, you've missed the point entirely. Take a step back and hold the president's statement up against the other major event this week, Thursday's historic Board of Peace meeting, where 60 nations answered President Trump's call to build something new, and where the president made a not-so-offhand remark about Henry Kissinger.
We had some conflicts, to put it mildly, in the world, and I said, Steve, how would you like to be Henry Kissinger Jr. that doesn't leak?
Because when you put those two things together, a very specific picture emerges. Not a president venting about a court ruling, but of a president who understands exactly what he's fighting, and he's naming it out loud. I'm Susan Kokinda. Those foreign interests, well, I've tracked them for decades. They are the same forces we fought the American Revolution against, and for most of those decades, they've stayed hidden. So if you want to look behind the curtain, hit those like, subscribe, and share buttons so we can stay in touch and spread our reach. Here's what I'm going to cover today. First, what foreign interests actually means and why the tariff fight is a direct continuation of the battle between the American system and the British imperial financial model. Second, how much of the world is rallying behind President Trump's Board of Peace and its anti-imperial vision, and the significance of Henry Kissinger in that regard. And third, what this moment demands of the American people, because anger alone is not going to win this fight. So who are these foreign interests? The president was careful. He said China-centric forces were behind the lawsuits. That is, people who, quote, have business in China and want to keep ripping us off. But look who actually filed the friend of the court briefs against the president's tariff authority. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the Cato Institute. These are not Chinese communist front groups. These are the most venerable bastions of Adam Smith's free trade ideology, an ideology which opened the floodgates for cheap Chinese goods to wipe out our manufacturing and to hollow out our middle class for decades. So it's not really China, is it? Yesterday, President Trump responded.
Okay, that's one of each. And I got the second ones here.
and a 170-year-old British playbook have in common? They're all part of the same war, and the empire just lost its first line of defense. President Trump's new national defense strategy just ended years of American support.
Okay. Yeah, hey Gary, we got our channels back about 3 months ago, I think. Trump won the lawsuit. And I had a bunch of other channels, and I never left. So, I made it over 1 million views. So, yep. So we're just playing it day by day, doing the same routine. Never give up. We're not going to give up.
For regime change operations abroad. No more color revolutions in other countries. No more democracy promotion. The post-war order isn't dying, it's dead. So what do the British do when they can't run their operations overseas anymore? They bring them home. Now they tell you Minneapolis is about communities fighting back against authoritarian ICE agents. But what you're really seeing is a textbook color revolution, the same tactics Lord Palmerston pioneered 170 years ago to stop the American system from spreading. And the same personnel who ran regime change in Ukraine and Syria are now running operations in the Midwest. I'm Susan Kokinda. I've studied how the British pioneered these methods going back to the 1840s. And understanding that history is going to help you see today's battle for what it really is and what it's going to take to win. So if this is your kind of fight, hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons to stay in touch and help us grow. Today, we're going to cover 3 things. First, Minneapolis as a classic British destabilization operation, and the USAID operative caught running it. Second, why the British are suddenly obsessed with Lord Palmerston, the original Color Revolution author. And third, the new national defense strategy as the final nail that forced them to bring the war home. While the media gaslights you about out-of-control ICE agents, Vice President J.D. Vance put his finger squarely on the truth. He said, this level of engineered chaos is unique to Minneapolis. It is the direct consequence of far-left agitators working with local authorities. Engineered chaos, working with local authorities. Let that sink in. And here's one of those local authorities. Rachel Sayre, the EMS chief in Minneapolis, posted this attack on federal law enforcement.
My background is in international humanitarian response in conflict zones in Yemen, Haiti, Syria, Iraq, and Ukraine. What I've seen here is what I've seen
one
there.
deer out there right now, flying eagle.
A powerful entity violently and intentionally terrorizing people.
Did you catch that? She just told you exactly who she is. Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Ukraine. Pretty much everywhere the empire has run a color revolution. What do a shooting in Minneapolis, the Davos smackdown, and a 170-year-old British playbook have in common?
Okay, I got the second one. We'll go 2 and 2, and then we'll get to the next group of short videos.
Just went on British television and said that the Epstein files could bring down the British monarchy. Listen to what Ro Khanna told Sky News.
I think this is the most vulnerable the British monarchy has ever been. They ought to ask the king and queen questions, and maybe this will be the end of the monarchy.
The end of the monarchy? Now everyone is debating what this means for King Charles. But here's what they're missing. What's actually bringing down King Charles and what's bringing down the Democrats is the very same thing, their fanatical commitment to the green agenda. Because this week, Donald Trump drove a stake through the heart of that agenda, launching the largest deregulation in American history. But the Democrats don't want you to see any of that. They want you to believe that a billionaire class of oligarchs has captured the Trump presidency. That's their midterm strategy. Drown out the factories being built, the jobs being created, the green straitjacket being ripped off the American economy. Drown all of it in scandal and class warfare. It's the same playbook the British Empire ran during the French Revolution to destroy a Republican movement from within. I'm Barbara Boyd. My colleagues and I at Promethean Action have tracked these imperial operations for decades. Today, I'm breaking down 3 things. How Ro Khanna and the Democrats are deploying the oligarch narrative as a midterm weapon. How Trump's kill shot to the green agenda is the real revolution. and why their playbook is a 200-year-old British operation that won then but will fail now. So let's start with what the Democrats are actually doing. Over the past few weeks, Ro Khanna has become the face of the Epstein file releases. Khanna just didn't talk about Epstein. He coined a term, the Epstein class, and then he aimed it.
This is bringing down the British government. It may bring down the British monarchy. It's bringing down countries and the elites across the country. What are we doing here in the United States to stand up to the Epstein class? I mean, we've got a commerce secretary who's all over the Epstein files. Where's the outrage? Where's the outrage that the billionaires in Silicon Valley, in finance, in Hollywood, they're going to Epstein's island? We need more accountability in the United States, just like they're having in so many other countries around the world.
Did you catch that pivot? He goes from King Charles to Howard Lutnick in one breath. The Commerce Secretary, the man Donald Trump has tasked with executing the tariff strategy that is rebuilding American manufacturing. Khanna isn't calling for justice for Epstein's victims. He's building a political weapon, and it's aimed directly at the people around Trump who are dismantling.
Hey, Gary, is that the one in my hometown? Or is it the one in England? Because I haven't heard anything yet about the bridge yet. I can make a phone call to one of my friends and see if it's still up.
The globalist economic system. He isn't freelancing. This is the Democratic Party's chosen strategy for the 2026 midterms. The New York Times reported in January that the Democrats have unified around a single theme, that America has become an oligarchy run by billionaires who have captured the Trump White House. Think about what they're saying. The billionaires cooperating with Trump to rebuild the American economy, the industrialists, the builders, the people putting shovels in the ground, those are the villains. Not the financial parasites who gutted our manufacturing for 50 years, not the Wall Street speculators who turned American families into permanent renters, the people actually building things. They're the enemies now. Now, why this matters is bigger than the midterms. The Democrats are doing something very specific. If they can make you distrust every billionaire and industrialist working with Trump, they can isolate the president from the very people he needs to rebuild the country. And here's the irony they're hoping you won't notice. Ro Khanna represents Silicon Valley. A Democratic congressman just...
Okay, I think we got... Did we do two? I might... Yeah, we'll go to the next one here.
A complete AI creation platform.
So he's saying he won't leave until the investigation is over. And even when it is over, he's not closing the door to staying on. So now we're facing this situation where we might have the possibility of Powell staying on even after he's replaced as a member of the Fed.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with policy editor Joe Lawler. And Joe, stock markets don't seem to be loving the war in Iran under the Trump administration. Oil prices are rising, which means prices at the pump are going up. These are all particularly painful metrics for President Trump, right?
That's right. The problem for Trump is that the price of oil hit as high as $119 this morning a barrel. And that has translated to gas prices of about almost $4 a gallon, which is what people pay for their cars, obviously, and diesel at $5 a gallon. So there's a few problems here. One is obviously people are feeling pain at the pump, right? And that's one of the prices that people are most sensitive to is every week, every few days, you go and you fill up your car and you're feeling the effect of those higher prices. Obviously, all the goods that we buy at the stores are, for the most part, or a lot of them, transported by trucks that run on diesel. So we're going to see over time those higher diesel prices translating to higher prices overall if this persists. There's an even bigger problem looming, though, which is that over time, this could become a macroeconomic problem that tips the entire economy into recession, right? If this goes on for weeks, for months, the price of oil above $115 becomes that size of a threat to the U.S. economy, especially because it drags people's their sentiment consumer sentiment down, and it's already quite low. So we could have a situation where people get so worried about paying these higher prices at the pump, at stores, that they start pulling back on purchases elsewhere. Consumer spending goes down, and we're facing the prospect of a downturn or a recession. That's happened a lot in U.S. history. I think something like 9 out of the last 11 recessions were preceded by a run-up in the price of oil. That's exactly what we're seeing now.
So are there things that President Trump can do to sort of mitigate this in the short term while hopefully, they get the Strait of Hormuz working again and can address some of the sort of root causes? What can Donald Trump do?
Right. The biggest thing is what you just said, right? Getting the Strait of Hormuz open for passage of oil through it once more. A fifth of global supply transited through there before this war. And until that is back open, we're going to see disruptions. We're going to see problems in the oil markets. What the administration is trying to do now is mitigate the fallout via releases from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, coordinated with other countries, by easing sanctions on Iranian oil, on Venezuelan oil, on Russian oil, to allow those barrels to reach the market and ease global prices. And maybe there's other things they can do around the margin. You saw they suspended the Jones Act, which is a prohibition on foreign flagged ships transiting between U.S. ports, try to ease domestic prices that way. But those are all Band-Aid solutions, right? Maybe that can buy the U.S. some time, but as this drags on more and more, this is going to become a bigger problem.
And speaking of economic news that Donald Trump doesn't like, the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, spoke this past week, as expected, did not raise interest rates. But he said something interesting about his plans for the future and staying on. What did he say?
Yeah, at his press conference this week, he gave really the first big update in his running feud with Donald Trump about him staying at the Fed. So Trump wants him out, clearly, and his term as chairman is up in May. And he's already under investigation by the DOJ for comments he made to Congress, which he says this investigation is a pretext to put the pressure on him to do what Trump wants, which is to lower interest rates. So here's the update, is he said he's not going to leave the Federal Reserve until that investigation is cleared. And to be clear, his term as chairman is up in May, but he can stay on as a member of the Fed's Board of Governors until 2028 if he decides to. So he's saying he won't leave until the investigation is over. And even when it is over, he's not closing the door to staying on. So now we're facing this situation where we might have the possibility of Powell staying on even after he's replaced as a member of the Fed, possibly serving as kind of like a shadow Fed chairman, maybe an internal source of dissent against whatever decisions the Trump appointed chairman might take. So it's a potentially fascinating scenario that we're seeing develop. We haven't seen that kind of power struggle or even question about the center of influence at the Fed before. And
the Supreme Court right now is considering whether Trump can remove Lisa Cook, one of the other members of the Fed board, for cause in Trump's eyes. That sort of has to do with an unrelated mortgage scandal. But would that open the door for Trump to potentially try to get Powell off of the Federal Reserve Board if the Supreme Court rules in his favor?
Yeah, that's right. So if you could imagine if there was a very broad Supreme Court ruling in Trump's favor saying that the president has the power to remove Fed governors, then yes, that would apply to Powell that would certainly apply to Powell. So that's another thing looming over his head. And that's part of a larger campaign against by Trump and Trump's allies in the administration to exert more influence over the Fed, which more traditionally has been insulated from pressure or influence from the executive branch.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more from Joe and the rest of the policy.
Okay, now we're talking about Powell there. I think this is a new one, isn't it? I'm not sure, you guys.
The military? Well, guess what? Congress put that there. Every president has abused that, per se. You can make a case. There may not be. They may not abuse it. We'll find out. We'll see if Carter did. We'll see if Bush did. We'll see. But There's an executive order with a national emergency still open from 1979. They have continued it every 2 years. It's with Iran, 1979, Jimmy Carter. All right. So every president's done it. But what did they do? They didn't take care of that emergency. They passed it down. That's not what they're supposed to do. There was an idiot out there saying that 2 years ago, a moron, all right, saying that that's just what presidents do. Well, what do you say now, libtard? Right? Oh, Biden, quote unquote, continued 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies by President Trump that are all deporting. That is the orders that's deporting the unlawful migrants. So is that what presidents just do? Because if they're saying that President Trump is a threat to democracy and he's a violation of the Constitution and he's a dictator, then why did Biden leave all of these open, continue them, and just hand them back to President Trump with a big old red bow on January 2025 and say, here you go, we didn't terminate any of your executive orders that's going to deport all the illegal migrants. But by the way,
I can't remember on this one.
All these other things. So just play along. You know, we're going to do all. That's how stupid this is. This is how easy. Depending on who you are and how stupid it is, depending on who you are. And it's stupid in a good way. Stupid easy. So when you look at that, it solves everything. All those executive orders that, quote unquote, Biden continued, which had an automatic 2-year termination in there. Oh, but guess what that is? That's Title 50, Chapter 34, National Emergencies. Oh, dang, under the same War and National Defense codification, you have the national emergencies. And it says that they terminate in 2 years if they're not what? Continued. So they automatically terminate if they're not continued. You know what continued requires? Pen, paper, president. So why did, quote unquote, Joe continue 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that are taking back the Panama Canal, deporting illegal migrants, child trafficking, sex trafficking, human trafficking, froze all the assets of all of those who are legally funding the Chinese Communist military, the PRC, all these things that they said President Trump is a threat over and a dictator over, and old Joe continued all those, and they portrayed to you, the people, that Joe had Democrat control of House and Senate from 2021 to 2023, but he couldn't terminate anything. He never terminated a tariff. How come no judge ever tried to block a tariff from 2021 to 2025? And how come Congress gave the president the authority over tariffs, and President Trump put the tariffs in place in 2018, but Joe did not terminate a single tariff from 2021 to 2025? Even though it's presidential authority, he wouldn't need House or Senate, but he did have control of the House and the Senate portrayed to you. So how come all these things that they're calling President Trump a threat and a dictator and all these other things over, how come they never terminated them? It's almost as if there was a military occupation and a military government and a continuity government. It's almost as if there wasn't a president from 2021 to 2025. I wonder why President Trump put that dash on his ball cap now. So see, all of you veterans out there that were resistant to me, now you have a line in the sand. Now you're really going to look stupid to your friends and family if you don't stand on the right side of the line. Now you have to validate me because there's a Title 10, Section 12406 order put into place that called up the National Guard to a federalization. All right, that's what's going on in California.
I think this
that's
is
a presidential
one.
follow-up.
I don't think
so see, but if you believe in one Title 10, now you got to do what? You got to go back to Executive Order 13912 that federalized 1 million reserve components that's still open, not revoked by Joe Biden. And the reserves have been active every single freaking day since that order's put in place. New York also proves it. New York, 2,800 National Guard on subway duty in 2022 and 2023. All right, where's the Title 10 order? Where's it at? It's not there except for President Trump from 2020. Also, New York State Senate, March the 11th, 2025, wrote President Trump a letter requesting federalization of the reserve components to active duty. All right, there's no Title 10 order from March the 11th to present day on the NewYork.gov. Where is that order, veterans? You resistant veterans, you all DD 214, no laws and orders, all DD 214, all your service, not for the people. Where is that order? The only order in place that federalizes New York National Guard is Executive Order 13912 from March 27, 2020. It has nothing to do with how old it is. It's not been revoked. It's not been rescinded. Stop looking atrocious out there. I'm trying to help you from looking stupid to your friends and family, because the more this is unveiled, and when President Trump and all this wraps up, and there's going to be big celebrations and everything, you're going to look stupid, and your service is going to look like it was null and void because you didn't even know the very laws and orders of which you served under or what you're supposed to. The president.
Okay, another good one. This lady had a lot of views on this one, you guys.
Are wondering why they're seeing so many tiny babies and in the water, because these do-it-yourself at-home chemical abortion pills are.
I better not play that one.
Beings going through the portal. This happened 2 nights ago. I went back to that area last night for my own sanity. I recorded an 8-minute video of the portal with the beings going through it. So I am going to show you guys that video. I'm going to quickly tell you about it. Something has changed. Something has, I don't know if it's the orbs. I don't know if it's the veil getting thinner. I don't know. But there has been so many weird sightings the last 2 weeks. And then this happens to me. Anyway, this was 2 nights ago. I went to walk my dog like I normally do. As I'm walking my dog, I start thinking about the experience that happened to me last year that I posted, where we see a whole bunch of orbs, rainbow orbs, blue orbs in the trees in that same wooded area. I have that posted somewhere on my page. I start thinking about that day and how nothing has happened like that since. All of a sudden, I see this craft that is flying sideways. So I start recording it because I had not seen craft do that in a few weeks. So I start recording it, and all of a sudden I see a flash of light behind me. So I focus on that flash of light and I start recording that. That is when I realized that this was some sort of light plasma portal. With my eyes, it looked huge. The phone does not do it justice because it does look a lot smaller. It was weird because I was only across the street, so not very far away from it. And my dog was moving, so it was a little bit hard to focus, but I did get some good footage of it doing what I'm telling you that it's doing. You guys will see for yourselves. But it was moving so fluidly. It was these huge shadow figure beings literally moving so fast inside the portal. And then at times you could see them like, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. Like my jaw is still on the floor today. It was that crazy. So I recorded the 8-minute long video last night. I went back out to that area for my own sanity, even though I know for a fact that there is no artificial light in that area. There is no street lamp. There is no house there. There is no reason why that there should be light in that area. But I went back out to the area last night. I started recording it. And I noticed an orb, a perfectly round orb. And then I start questioning my sanity. And I'm like, is there a light there? There isn't. Anyway, my neighbor comes up to me and she's like, can I ask you a question? I say, sure. I stop recording, talk to her, finish talking to her. I go back to record the area and the orb is gone. So something is happening in that area. It has been since the orbs arrived in 2024. Anyway, I'm going to show you guys the videos and you let me know what you think. Okay, bye. Fudge is that? It's sideways. You can't see it from here, but it's literally flying sideways and it's huge. Oh, what is that? I hear a plane behind me. Whatever that is about to land in the woods. And it's sideways. It's literally flying sideways and it's huge. Oh, I see a lot of weird stuff in the woods today. Hold on. That light is not supposed to be there. Whoa. There's like shadows moving in it. Shadows moving.
What do you guys think that is?
eyes, it looks like thousands of shadows passing through the light. Like with my eyes, it looks like thousands of shadows passing through. There is no house back there. Whoa. Back there.
She did a good job of recording that, though. At least she spotted something.
I have to admit, I'm a little bit scared. I'm trying not to be. That is plasma energy, and it's moving like the phone doesn't even do it justice, which is crazy, because as I was walking, I was literally thinking of what happened to me last year with the light beings and how I had not seen them since. And look at this with my eyes. It's huge. Also an orb just appeared up there out of nowhere as I was talking. I wish you guys could see how big it actually is, because the phone is literally not doing it justice. Wow. Made of light. Made of light. And now it looks like a plasma ball just folding onto itself. It's kind of beautiful. I have to admit, I'm a little terrified. Wow. It's so big. The phone is not doing it justice. This is crazy. I literally was thinking in my mind, I was going to make a video, show you guys this area, because I've recorded this area almost every week for the past few months to show you that what happened last year has not happened or showed up since. And now they're here again, which is weird because every time that they are here or they have been here, we see the crazy, weird helicopters. You guys don't understand how insane this is. Okay, I think I'm gonna go because honestly, I'm getting a little scared just because I can see shadow figures like inside of whatever that is. It just looks like shadow figures kind of like traveling through the light. I'm sorry, I'm trying to hold it still, but the phone does not even do it justice because with my eyes, it almost looks like a curtain of light, but in
So that was kind of interesting. I wonder what that was.
To be over, when is it going to be over? It's been dragging out for years. This has been pre-planned for many, many, many years. They were finally able to do it under President Trump, the character. Okay, so now we're watching it roll out. This is not going to be glorious and beautiful. This is Babylon. Babylon is right here in America, and it's coming down. Okay, so there's going to be hard times, and people are suffering and going through really hard times financially or whatever the situation is. It is crashing. Babylon is crashing. Okay, and it's here on our soil in the Northeast. Okay, so hang tight. Better days are coming. He does say it's the rebirth of America, and it is. We're getting our land back. Okay, the truth is going to roll out. Us truthers that have done research, we're out there trying to push stuff and getting our pages taken down and everything, and having to write books so we can get our information out there or start podcasts or whatever. Babylon's crashing, okay? And it's not going to be a pretty sight. But in the end, it's going to be good. So hang tight. Just hang tight and keep pushing through because the rebirth of America is right around the corner. Have a great day. Because if you watch my videos all the way through, you will see on numerous videos I state, do not ever listen to anyone that gives you a month or a day on when anything is going to roll out or happen, because only the top guys, the generals and admirals at the top running the operation, know exactly when everything is going to roll out, because this has been pre-planned for many, many years. This comment right here and a couple others that left comments like this, you clearly did not watch my video all the way through, because I said April 1st is our real New Year's Day. That's what I said. I did not say anything will happen on April 1st. I said April 1st is our true and real New Year, not January 1st. So please go back and watch the video again. I don't know if some of you take stuff wrong or what, but when I do videos, I figure I'm explaining it properly for people that are watching all the way through and I guess paying attention. I never give days and I never give months. No one knows but the top guys. Again, April 1st is our New Year's Day, the real one, not January 1st. And that's what I said in the video. Have a great day and watch the videos all the way through.
Okay, yep, Tim, we all like her. She's a good one. I got one more.
Aaron? SEAL Team 6, they're still alive. Have a great day. You guys remember him right here, right? Aaron? SEAL Team 6?
That was a short one. Dang it. Ah. Okay, we'll do Q. Just came out.
That's why homeowners. What's up, family? Welcome to Out of the Darkness. I am Hugh. So this week we are going to have an incredible argument brought before the Supreme Court. This decision is going to change elections in our country forever. And now you guys probably say, "Oh man, come on, Hugh. Now, you're being a little bit hyperbolic." I really am not. I believe this will be the most important decision, or one of the most important decisions to come through the Supreme Court in my lifetime. I'll explain to you why. Now, we've all seen since COVID that this whole election thing has gotten a little bit out of hand, right? We've seen, all of the mail-in ballots. We've seen all sorts of fraud that have come about as a result of the mail-in ballots. Well, Mississippi has a law on the books now that will allow ballots, as long as they are postmarked by the election day, that they will allow up to a week to actually count those ballots. The argument against that is what's to say that this unexpected amount of ballots that was sent out that's coming in, what's to say that if that ballot is out there and a candidate needs, I don't know, 100, 200 votes in order to win, but they're behind, but in the polls, what's to say that they find those ballots? And it's not like we haven't seen strange phenomena like this before. And so the Republicans are saying, wait a minute, hold on. That's not the way election day is supposed to work. And they appealed it to the Fifth Circuit Court, and they won. The Fifth Circuit Court said, whoa, 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 no, election day is election day. We can't have this. You can't have these situations where someone is supposed to vote by this Tuesday, for example, and it's the following Tuesday before it actually gets counted. Remember those old days where we would go to bed, where we would vote, and by the time we went to bed, we knew who won the election? Outside of Trump's massive thrashing of Kamala Harris, that's been the case for the most part, that we've had to wait and see how these things play out. So that is ending, hopefully, with this this hearing. Now, the reason why it's so important to the rest of us is there's over 30 states in the country right now with similar laws like this, that you can count votes long after the election day is over. So the Supreme Court is going to decide as to whether election day means election day, whereas you can continue to count votes after, or if those votes need to be counted prior to election day. I am a firm believer that those votes must be. Now, that connected along with the SAVE Act would be incredible for our country in ensuring that our elections have integrity and they also mean something. But if we weren't able to get the SAVE Act, which I pray we do, this would go a long way to shoring up elections. No more of this foolishness of voting for a month or multiple months and waiting on us getting these results. So be praying that this actually turns out properly. If I were to make a prediction, I believe that the Supreme Court will uphold the decision of the Fifth Circuit Court. It's very rare that when a decision comes to them, especially a conservative decision, that they overturn that. So I think there's reason to be optimistic for us, but the Supreme Court has been a wild card here recently, as you guys know. So it'll be interesting to see how they come back. But guys, hey, have a wonderful day. Be blessed. I'll see you guys next time.
Okay, 1Q video. I can't remember if we played this earlier or not, you guys.
People love the Daily Free.
The UN is not looking very right now. It's really kind of fallen, if one can imagine, even lower in terms of its status. Right? Like we none of us had much use for the UN ever. Donald Trump was the first one to call them out to their face. It was really fantastic. Remember years ago, I'm not going to play the clip, but he sat there and looked at them straight in the face and he's like, yeah, you're not paying your fair share. You're not paying your fair share. You're supposed to contribute, 4% of GDP. You're not doing it. You're not even close. Not even that. I don't think it was 4%. We're the only ones paying any of this. So Donald Trump is over NATO. He's so sick of them. He's like, for goodness sakes, I knew you guys were no good. I knew you were bad news. But then, lo and behold, I actually need you for something. I don't really need you. But it would be nice to have a little bit of moral support along the way, and I can't even get that, right? So here he is, dinging NATO yet again, inching closer and closer to saying, I'm just going to rip the whole thing out.
It's a simple military maneuver. It's relatively safe, but you need a lot of help in the sense of you need ships, you need volume. And NATO could help us, but they so far haven't had the courage to do so. And others could help us, but we don't use it. At a certain point, it'll open itself. At a certain point.
You know what he means by that? At a certain point, somebody, not us, is going to have to defend themselves when they are in the Strait of Hormuz, because we don't get any oil from there. Therefore, we don't really need to care. The rest of you all need your oil from the Strait of Hormuz. So you know what? You might want to actually step up and do something, because when push comes to shove, we may just not be there for you, right? Again, here he is speaking this week about NATO. You start to put two and two together, and this does not look very good for NATO. Not very good at all.
All of the NATO allies agreed with us, but they don't want to, despite the fact that we help them so much. We have thousands of soldiers in different countries all over the world, and they don't want to help us. We don't need help. That war has been long prosecuted, as far as I'm concerned, almost from day one. We knocked out many of these things. We knocked out the Navy essentially in a couple of days. But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agreed that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month of when we had the B-2 bombers bomb the nuclear potential. I call it the nuclear dust. NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
In other words, NATO, you failed. Big time. Big fat F on that one. NATO, you're running out of options. And you're right, by the way, the last Boy Scout, forgive me, pointing out in the chat here, China's the one, right, that needs that oil from the Strait. You better believe it. China needs it. South Korea needs it. Some of Europe, but mostly Asia really relies on that. And so when all of that gets cut off, India needs it. Hey, yeah, we're looking at higher oil prices. You better believe it. Here is John Bolton saying, hey, Europeans, you might want to be a little more cautious about this. And John Bolton, by the way, has never met a war he didn't like. So take him with a grain of salt. But he also loves NATO, and he wants Donald Trump to stay part of NATO. And he knows that Trump's looking at it going, what you doing for me? Nothing much lately. And so what does that mean for Ukraine? Watch.
But I will say, I think the Europeans make a mistake by responding to that kind of juvenile behavior with juvenile behavior of their own. A number of European leaders, including Kaja Kallas, the European Union's chief foreign policy official, have said expressly, Iran is not our war. That's a very dangerous way to put it, because it invites Donald Trump. It almost teases him to come back and say, well, okay, Iran is not your war. Ukraine is not our war. It's very dangerous to approach Trump in the same way he behaves.
Aha. Because, yeah, he could just say, I really don't need this, right? So somebody got through to the Europeans. Perhaps John Bolton, with all his CNN appearances, had somebody over in the big, European Union watching, because all of a sudden, think about this flip-flop that they did. As soon as Donald Trump said what he said, and that was on St. Patrick's Day when he first brought this up, like, gee, they're really not there for us, are they? And now he's just continued to ding them every single day, with the most recent being what I just showed you at the top of the clip there. Listen, he's over it. He's over NATO, and now NATO's starting to figure it out, because the head of NATO just came out and said this. No, we're working on it. We're working on it. Give us a minute.
Of the ballistic missiles, of the nuclear capability is severely degraded. When it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, I've been in contact with many allies. We all agree, of course, that strait has to open up again. And what I know is that allies are working together, discussing how to do that. What is the best way to do it? They're working on that collectively to find a way forward.
Okay. Well, we're still waiting. So you keep thinking. And maybe have, some of your guys back off a little in Spain and in the UK, like maybe just, not slam us as much as you love to slam us. Rob and I, as I said, did a whole thing on the Strait of Hormuz, and you should go check that out. Also, we revealed to you the name of the company. I mean, we don't always win like this. This has been a really, really good. One of my team members who helps me cut the chapters that we send out on the show was looking at this. He's like, Trish, this is wild. I'm like, yeah, it's been good. And we've been very lucky. And we try to always beat the S&P. We're very thoughtful. There's a ton of work that goes into picking the stocks that are in each of these portfolios. And then, of course, one of the recent ones that we put in the 76 report was we wanted you to have it, and we put it in both two of these portfolios, and then we talked about it on the podcast. So go look at the podcast there at 76 Research.
Okay, I got two with her, and I got a couple with Benny still. Then I got two 15-minute ones. Where am I at? Actually, I got three with her.
Ooh, the Democrats are terrified, because remember how I told you the Treasury has all this say and power over bank accounts that somebody might have in the Middle East, like those Iranians, or like any bank account that Ilhan Omar and the hubby may have had overseas. And all the overseas accounts are like, here you go, here you go, here you go. Well, the president's figuring out that, maybe he has a little bit of power over whether or not somebody who is here illegally should have a bank account or not. So this is the new debate du jour, because he's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to back off, some of this very aggressive going after, such as what we saw in Minneapolis, right? With Kristi Noem, he's putting Markwayne Mullin in, who's got maybe a little bit of a softer approach to this. Not really softer, but when suddenly Tom Homan is your softie, I guess Kristi was, really right out in front. So they're scaling this back, and the word is, he wants it to be sort of handled a little bit more eloquently. He wants to go after the real bad guys, the people that have committed the crimes. He doesn't want to just be doing these giant sweeps, but he is saying something else alongside the way, which is that I don't really think somebody who's here in this country illegally should be able to have a bank account. So get ready for some fireworks, because the Democrats will say this is wrong too. In a way, it's actually brilliant politics, because you keep backing them into a corner. They're defending everyone really that they shouldn't, while not defending American citizens themselves. Here's the report from CNN.
Trump could soon force banks to take part in an immigration crackdown. What I mean by that is sources tell CNN the administration is considering requiring financial institutions to collect and verify their customers' citizenship status, something banks aren't currently required to do. One source says the new policy could come through an executive order.
Come through an executive order. Okay. So we'll see what happens. He'll be challenged on that from a constitutionality standpoint, but he might say, hey, you're Bank of America. You're Bank of America. You ought to be able to prove that somebody is here in this country legally or in a country anywhere legally, right? Because, hey, you're from Germany or Switzerland. You're certainly welcome to open a Bank of America account, but we should know that you're from Germany or Switzerland. I remember I was a student. I told you I have a music background, right? And so I was studying in Graz, Austria one summer. I was studying opera and classical music, and Graz, Austria is amazing. Back then it was amazing. I don't know if it's so amazing anymore. Things have changed considerably. I know that, but I had a bank account there. I had a bank account, and I went in and, had to present all my information, my passport, this, that, and the other, even just to cash a traveler's check. You had to give them all this information. And so I've always wondered, how do you get a bank account in the US of A if you don't have any of this information? If you don't show, say, your Mexican passport, how are you going to get a bank account? How do they really know who you are? But I guess none of it matters, right? Because you can even get a license in many, many, many states here in the United States of America, even if you don't have any identification. So it's rather peculiar to me because I just know that I'm not allowed to, say, go to Mexico and vote in their elections, nor go to Mexico and just open a bank account with no ID. But for some reason, it doesn't work the other way around. It's kind of like the UN analogy, right? You got to be there for us, but we're never going to be there for you, right? Everywhere else in the world, they have ID for voting in elections. Even Somalia just instituted this, or for getting a bank account. But for some reason, in the US of A, it is one giant free-for-all. I'm sorry, it's not going to work that way anymore. We got to have rules, all right? Rules, rules, rules. He was elected for a reason. People were sick and tired of what was going on.
Okay. Let's do let's do this one here. 20 minutes.
Agents were targeting nutrition bar confectioners in Cato.
Okay, so on September 4th, 2025, this happened. Federal agents and deputies raid Central New York nutrition bar manufacturing plant. So for those of you that notice little details, you might see a detail in this title. Deputies were also involved with this operation. And by deputies, I am talking about sheriffs. Now, when we think about New York, typically many people assume New York is a left-leaning Democrat state and it's a sanctuary state. However, New York State is not technically a sanctuary state, and there are very strong pockets of right-leaning voters in the state of New York, typically known as the area of upstate New York, which means there are sheriffs who have agreements to work with ICE in these types of situations. Now, today we're talking about the small town of Cato, New York, which is in one of these areas where the sheriffs do operate with ICE. And Border Patrol was also with this operation in Cato, New York. So why are we talking about this operation if it happened in 2025? Well, we have the body cam footage available to the public, which is very unique because we don't always get to see what this footage looks like, especially an actual raid, which did have a warrant for officers to enter this building. So, of course, we're going to dig into the body cam footage and some of the details around this case. Before we start, make sure to please like this video. It does help out a lot, and it also helps others see the videos as well. Now, before we watch this footage, here's just a detail right off the bat so we know what's going on here. This building was the Nutrition Bar Confectioners Factory in Cato, and apparently federal agents detained 57 employees. So keep that in mind as we watch this clip.
Thank you. Thank you.
We need an announcement made. Can you help us with that?
I could.
Okay, perfect. So what we need to do is have the employees in the back be made aware we have a search warrant for the facility.
Attention, all nutrition bar confectioner employees.
The police are here with a search warrant. Please move to the production hallway and turn off all equipment by hitting the e-safe button. Thank you.
Atención a los trabajadores de Nutrition Bar Confectioner. Somos policías con una orden de...
Agents stopped production, yelled at people in bathroom stalls, and ordered most of the workers to line up in a hot break room.
Open the door. Abra la puerta.
It's a foot. It's resistance.
Yeah.
Hang it. Got it?
Okay, so I don't know if you guys caught that. The guy said that's resistance. And apparently this is the women's bathroom.
Necesitas muevas. Vamos a abrir la puerta. Con fuerte.
He's in there. I got it. Ready?
Yep.
Get down! Get down! Get down! Get on the ground! Females.
Siéntese. No te muevas.
Miss, pull up your pants, come out of the bathroom. Pull up your pants, come out of the bathroom. Pull up your pants, come out of the bathroom.
Necesitas poner tus pantalones. She's asking to wait since she's moving pants up.
Okay, please hurry.
Okay. Señoritas, conmigo. A mis compañeros, por favor.
They asked each person, one by one, whether they were U.S. citizens.
You good? Yeah. I was just getting a little
Hot as shit.
Okay, so those are being checked. U.S. citizens. Okay.
Everything in there is not U.S. citizens.
Over on this side. Let's go. The quicker we do this, the quicker we get through it, right? Come to this side. Come up in the front to the side. No, you're not going in your locker. No. And I'll take the pen. I'll take it. Thank you. Hey, that side. All the way.
Voy a hablar con él.
57 people were detained.
Okay, so I figured I would let this clip play out so you guys can audibly hear what's going on and visually see what's going on. I didn't want to stop this too much, but leave your comments down below. Let me know how you feel about this. Again, this was a heavily integrated operation as far as Border Patrol and ICE, and the sheriffs were there as well. And by the way, if you are new here, make sure to please subscribe to my channel because we cover stuff like this all the time. And I really try to highlight operations that don't make it to the mainstream. Now, I know there might be some people out there saying, why is Border Patrol involved with this? It doesn't look like we're actually near the border. Well, we are near the border according to the United States, because according to the United States, Border Patrol actually controls 100 miles into the United States as far as what constitutes the border around the United States. It's not like you have to be within the shoreline here of the border. That is not how it works. Border Patrol is allowed to operate within this 100-mile buffer, and they can operate under certain rules as well. Which is why Chief Bovino and other Border Patrol agents were getting a lot of pushback from Democrats and some Republicans as far as Border Patrol operating within the interior of the United States, just past that 100-mile zone. So, according to court records, federal authorities had two separate types of warrants, one for business records, and the other was a Blackie's warrant, named after a 1981 court case, Blackie's House of B. First Castello. In the footage, the agents enter an office and state they are going to look through the computers. However, the majority of the footage is agents searching the facility for people. The Blackie's warrant allows agents to enter a work site and look for people suspected of violating immigration law, but does not name specific people. The footage shows them sorting people based in groups of visas and permit holders, U.S. citizens, and people they need more information from. The warrant specifically only allows for consensual conversation. And here's some raw footage.
I'm guessing there's a lot of other people right now. Let's go here. Where's the door? already open. The door's already open.
Okay, so that was interesting. I don't know if you guys caught that. It appears as if someone was requesting one of the agents or someone in charge of searching to put on a coat, possibly to not contaminate anything in this area. Remember, this is a working facility.
So I'm just giving you a heads up.
They have to check out the line. They have to
Yeah. And again, this is why things like this, it's pretty fascinating because we typically will just see the headlines, ICE raid, but we don't get to see these interactions or the details. I mean, these raids could have consequences to business owners who might be doing the right thing or might not be doing the right thing. But either way, again, interesting detail in this case. Sorry.
This is the. There's still fucking people. Hey.
Yeah, this guy is checking everything.
Huh? Should be good on that side. It's a fucking shit. They said they should be good on that side, but I would double. I'll come around and.
Leaving the warrant, come out! I don't know if you want to look, it's all aisle. Oh, yeah, we're okay, all right. Release the warrant, come out!
Okay, I was also able to track down the footage of initial entry into the building.
We're okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. Good. There you go. It is locked. Please. Yep, go try to find an employee.
This guy's got a key.
Easy.
And a ran.
Nope, we got it. Sorry.
It appears as if that guy said, I have a RAM. Again, in all technicality, if this is an active warrant, they can do what they need to do as far as they have justifiably proven that they tried to gain entry the peaceful way.
We got him. Coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
So they got in.
Those are locked.
Right now we got about 160 employees.
Yeah. Today, this shift?
Yeah, we got Guidelines, yeah.
So we need an announcement made. Can you help us with that?
I could.
Okay, perfect. So what we need to do is have the employees in the back be made aware we have a search warrant for the facility. Is there a break room or somewhere we can just bring everybody and explain what's going on?
It's not big enough to handle everybody, but.
Okay.
The one left over the side. I can show you.
Sir, do you have a key to this locked office?
You can actually access it right through the other.
And remember, now we know they have the specific type of warrant where they can look into the electronics. I am assuming that might be what's going on here. Somebody could be trying to scrub information. Again, we don't know, but as far as having that specific type of warrant, that could be why he's trying to get into the office.
Yep. Thank you. Hello, police. Yeah, Ford's. I'll get him now.
We will have people calling, yeah, as well to kind of help everybody, guide them to where they need to go.
So whoever wants to.
Is it possible for them to shut down the machinery so no one gets hurt?
Yes.
Let's make that announcement as well as.
That phone can't page. I gotta get through one passenger.
Kelly, do you want me to do it or you want him to do it in English?
I want him to do the English and you can do the Spanish, please.
Let's open that door. Did we get in here yet? No.
Almost over.
Or anything that.
Looks like they
Attention, all
looks like they gave him a script right here.
nutrition bar confectioner employees. The police are here with a search warrant. Please move to the production hallway and turn off all equipment by hitting the e-safe button. Thank you.
Atención a los trabajadores de Nutrition Bar Confectioner. Somos policías con una orden de registro. Por su seguridad, por favor, apague sus máquinas y vaya a la pasillo de producción. Atención a los trabajadores de Nutrition Bar Confectioner. Somos policías con una orden de registro. Por su seguridad, por favor, apague sus máquinas y vaya
Are the owners here? Are the owners here?
I just
de producción.
They're on their way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who'd you call? I'm sorry. Which one? Lenny Schmidt.
Okay.
Again, I have no idea who this is, but I guess he somehow had access or had a key to get inside the building.
Just hang it up.
Hang it up?
Okay.
And then we'll go over the speaker.
Can you open this locked door over here for us?
Are here with a search warrant. Please move to the production hallway and turn off all equipment.
Thank you.
By hitting the safe button.
The announcement's been made. Announcement's been made. You're Chris, right? How long is it going to take Lenny to get here?
He's just left the gym.
Where? Auburn?
Yeah, I think Auburn.
Okay. You want to talk to him now?
Okay, so let me know what you guys think about that. That video really goes to show that not all of these ICE operations are as
So yeah, that was a raid there for getting the illegal immigrants out, right? Okay, what do we got here? I got another military video. Let me know if this was the same one from yesterday. If it is, I got If you guys want me to play the 20-minute Kennedy on the floor today, he was on.
It's been an interesting 3 weeks, a lot been going on. Many of you have joined the channel and been watching here. So I thought it's time for us to really sit down and understand how we've gotten to where we are today. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. So here's the data from the Joint Maritime Information Center for that first week of the war. 98 vessels transiting through the strait on 28 February, a massive drop down to 1 ship on 3 March, and then a peak back up to 4 ships on 5 and 6 March, but well below the standard by which we usually measure ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. All right, let's take a look at the major news stories that went on that first week. So February 28th, Hormuz traffic slows after initial strikes on Iran. I came out very early and said, listen, we've never had a historic closing of the Strait of Hormuz. And I said, I really don't believe that the Iranians could close the Strait of Hormuz unless they used mines. That was going to be the big issue. If they decided to use mines, that was going to be the thing that was going to trigger a blockage, in my opinion. March 1st, first 36 hours, Strait of Hormuz becomes a war zone. Tankers hit, shipping giants halt Gulf transit. So this attack started on a weekend. One of the things that happened almost immediately is the shipping companies realized that the amount of war risk insurance they were paying, this is the money that's set aside to cover a ship should it be damaged in case of conflict, was not sufficient to cover the volume of ships going through the Strait of Hormuz and estimating the level of attacks that were about to happen. So what the shipping firms did, which are part of the insurance clubs, the P&I Protection Indemnity clubs did, was order the ships to stop moving, lock down in place, and then over the weekend negotiate new insurance rates. And what we saw was insurance rates for war risk go from 0.15, 0.25%, up to about 1 to 1.5%. And what we've seen happen since then has actually transpired even higher. But immediately the ships decided to kind of lock in place. And the problem with this was once the ships stop moving, it's going to be hard to get them moving. What they're going to be doing is looking toward the United States as a element of security and sit there and say, is it safe to move? Is it safe to sail through the Strait of Hormuz? Is it safe to sail up the entire range of the Persian Gulf? Because Iran is everywhere. They're the entire northern shore of the Persian Gulf. And if it's not safe, ships are going to do what they can to avoid danger. They're going to anchor, they're going to drift, they're going to basically lay low as much as you can in the Persian Gulf. Third day, war risk insurance canceled after Iran strike. So here it is. Everyone locks in place. Everyone's rates are basically canceled. Even though the contracts were good through 5 March, everybody decided not to move. This is where the United States needed to intercede. It is not until the next week that the U.S. says, hey, we've got $20 billion we can give you for war risk. That should have been made available the first day. That's when you needed that money for the war risk. You don't need it now because the ship companies already have war risk. They're pooling their money. They're doing that. What they needed was the guarantee up front. I think if the U.S. had planned that and had that money up front, then maybe the shipping wouldn't have locked up and stopped as it did. March 3rd, China. China becomes the reasonable state here. Calls on all sides to protect ships transiting Hormuz. Now, this is purely in their best interest because China gets a third of the oil that comes out of the Persian Gulf. This is absolutely dependent on them. So they obviously want to see shipping remain moving. They're not kind of calling out anybody here. They're just saying, listen, we need ships to move because we're dependent on that oil coming out. And that's going to be the case of many countries in Europe, Africa, and Asia.
You're one sentence away from launching your website with Base 44. Since the beginning of the internet, there's never been such a fun, fast.
4 March, U.S. submarine torpedoes Iranian frigate in the Indian Ocean in the first wartime strike of its kind since World War II. Now, this is really important because what this does is it expands the war zone. It demonstrates that the war isn't confined to the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, but could be out in the entire Indian Ocean. And that is an escalation of the conflict. It's at that same time that the strait traffic grinds to a halt. March 5th, Hormuz crisis triggers war risk measures for seafarers. So again, we're reassessing the war risk, the sinking of the Dina out in the Indian Ocean just south of Sri Lanka, astride a major shipping line. Once again, has everybody relooking at war risk insurance, not just in the Persian Gulf, not just at the Strait of Hormuz, but actually outside. And this creates another problem. Not really sure the U.S. understands that their actions are expanding the war zone, creating issues across the entire spectrum. And then the end of that first week, Iranian shadow fleet and Greek-affiliated ships lead Strait of Hormuz transit. So the ships that are getting out are going to be Greek tankers, not surprising because Greek tanker owners are going to see an opportunity for profit and head out. But the Iranian ships is the interesting one. That first week, I talked about the idea that if you really want to hurt Iran, you go after their oil facilities, but you don't want to bomb it. You don't want to bomb Karg Island. You don't want to destroy Jask, their other oil terminal outside the Persian Gulf. You target the tankers, but you don't sink the tankers. That's a huge environmental spill thing. You do what the U.S. was doing to Venezuela and take down the tankers. There was plenty of forces in place to do that. You were moving amphibious forces from the Far East. There was some expeditionary support bases that were in place that could have done this, but the U.S. decides not to do it. Instead, they're allowing Iranian shadow tankers to sail out through the Strait of Hormuz and continue their voyages, largely carrying oil for China. So that brings us to week 2, 7 March to 13 March. And again, a pretty pitiful week here. You start and end the week with single ship transits, a bit of a peak midweek with 7 vessels, but not a lot to show here in movement through the Strait of Hormuz. This story on March 7th, the Iranian IRGC, this is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, challenges Trump to have U.S. vessels escort tankers out of the Strait of Hormuz. A challenge, you say. You are challenging President Trump. Do you think that's a bright idea? I'm just wondering. There's many things about President Trump. I don't think challenging him is probably the best move at this case. On March 8th, Tokyo prepares to release oil reserve amid Iran crisis. So one of the things I said early on is just because you cut off 20% of global oil, that doesn't immediately shouldn't cause a shock to the system. It does, but it shouldn't for this. Oil doesn't flow from the oil well onto a ship right into a refinery into your gas tanks. It goes through intermediary stages. There are reservoirs, there are pools of oil that are out there. For example, off Malaysia and Singapore, massive anchorage, hundreds of millions of barrels of oil at float here in an anchorage off there. That oil is basically either transloaded to other ships or dispatched to ports where they're going to get the best money for it. And so even in the United States, there's storage facilities. And then you have on top of that strategic reserves. The US, China, and Japan have 3 of the largest strategic reserves in the world, something you dip into when oil is disrupted. The US has a strategic petroleum reserve, and here we see Japan talking about releasing theirs. Japan and China have them for very good reason. They learned that lesson in World War II. What happens when you're cut off from your oil supply? They don't need to be taught that again. March 9th, Trump tells ships, show some guts in Hormuz as seafarer death rate rises. All right, show some guts. Hang on a second here. Wait a minute. Need something a little stronger than that here. Oh. All right, Mr. President. You're going to tell a seafarer to show some guts? As a former merchant mariner and someone who likes to think they have the best interest of the mariners out there. I'm not a spokesman for the mariners. I don't speak for every merchant mariner by any means. But having sailed as a mariner and knowing many merchant mariners and talking to many merchant mariners, I will tell you that they are a pretty gutsy group. They don't need to be told to show guts. However, they are going to ask you, okay, you want us to show guts, you got to cough up your own. And in this case, one of the things that really needs to be done is to show that the strait is open. And unfortunately, at this moment, that's not being demonstrated. The U.S., which went to war with a limited force in place, particularly on the naval side, doesn't have enough naval forces to execute a forced passage through the strait and an escort mission through the strait, and more importantly, throughout the whole Persian Gulf. I mean, the strait is 21 miles wide. I mean, it's about 50 to 100 miles long. But the problem is you are in the lee of Iran the entire run up to Kuwait. And in some places, you're very close to Iran. You would need escorts throughout that way. You're not going to do that with 8 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers attached to the Lincoln Battle Group. You're just not. You're going to need more forces. And this is where the Allies typically came in. Every war game scenario I ever saw when I worked with the military was we would have allies associated with us. When I was in the Persian Gulf in the 1990s, we had allies everywhere. There was a whole checkpoint system set up. We saw that all throughout that region. And I think, asking sailors to show guts is a bit much, especially if they're sailing on something like a liquefied natural gas carrier, which we can affectionately call a bomb. I think showing a little bit of protection is not uncalled for when there's a shooting war and you've got drones and aerial and surface vessels and missiles flying across the Persian Gulf.
Welcome to the Wanderer's Outpost, where there are many wanderers from different planets, each with their own role.
We then have this story from the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, who deleted a post claiming the U.S. Navy had escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I don't know how you make that mistake, Secretary Wright, but it was out there. People saw it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it was you, if it was an intern, but somebody had access to your Twitter account and posted that out there. That's not a great thing to put out there if it's not true. But it goes again to the issue about what is the message being conveyed out there by the Trump administration over to the shipping that's out there. On 11 March, this photo came out, and it's a haunting photo. This had to deal with the attack on 3 vessels, including a Thai bulk carrier out there. This photo shows you the lifeboat and the human cost of what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. We know of at least 8 deaths of merchant mariners, potentially up to 11, in and around the area, with attacks off the coast of Basra in the upper Persian Gulf region, around the Strait of Hormuz, on both sides of the Strait of Hormuz, and even out into the Gulf of Oman. And in the case of this ship depicted here, the Thai bulker, a unmanned surface vessel got under the counter, the stern of the vessel, blew up, detonated into the engine room, and probably killed the 3 engineers that were on watch. Just absolutely a harrowing, tragic story. March 12th, U.S. Hormuz escorts may start at the end of the month, according to who? Secretary Wright. Why is Secretary Wright the spokesman for everything happening in the Strait of Hormuz? He's the Secretary of Energy. I want to hear this from, I don't know, Secretary Hegseth. I'd want to hear it from General Kane, maybe the president. I don't know. I don't know why Chris Wright is the one who's doing this. But he's saying the end of the month. That's 4 weeks, Chris. 4 weeks you're going to keep traffic bottled up there? That's a long friggin' time. Give you the example when Ever Given got stuck in the Suez back in March of 2021. It was stuck for 6 days. It took 6 weeks to clear that up. If you're going to close the Strait of Hormuz for 30 days, it's going to take you 30 weeks to clear this up. That is over half a year. This is a problem, Chris. I don't know what more to say here. I think we need to do something here to prioritize the Strait of Hormuz. I understand watching the press briefings of Secretary Hegseth and General Kane that they're conducting their missions. They're decapitating the Iranian military. They're degrading the Iranian military. They're striking and hitting the Navy. It's great. But we really need to get the strait open. We really need to get traffic flowing here. So maybe that's going to be the priority going into week 3. But at the end of week 2, we get this. Lured by profits, some ship owners brave minds and missiles to sneak oil past Iran. Oh, man, hats off to you, Greek ship owners out there. I know you're Greek. I know who you are. I know what ships they are. I got you. Opa. Man, that's some gutsy merchant mariners right there, running ships, getting them out of the strait, bar none. I like that kind of operation right there. That's some good merchant marine stories right there. All right, 2 weeks in, trickle coming out. We're getting some movement. We're getting word that maybe an escort mission is going to start at the end of the month. Let's roll into week 3. All right, week 3, not looking great. I mean, we're getting a couple of ships here at the beginning of the week, peaking at 4 on 17 March. But by the time we get to 20 March, we're back down to 1 ship. So not a lot of traffic moving through. Now, I'd assume at this point that the military, Trump, and the administration is looking toward, okay, let's start gearing up here. We're talking about starting, escorts here at the end of the month. I'm sure planning has been underway for this. I'm sure that everything is in motion to get this going. So here we go. March 14th, Trump calls for allied warships to secure Strait of Hormuz. Okay, I kind of think we would call for that, I don't know, maybe on February 28th or March 1st, not March 14th, but okay, we're 2 weeks in and now we're calling for help. All right, seems a bit late to me. I'm just saying, it just seems like you'd want to do this a little earlier. 15 March, Trump demands other countries help secure vital Strait of Hormuz. Okay, we've gone from asking now to demanding. That was quick. It was a day, and we went from asking to demanding. But I'm sure that will get responses because Trump has a stellar dialogue with countries from around the world. It's not like we've been involved in some sort of trade conflict of any kind with everybody and tried to hammer them with tariffs of any kind. I'm sure everybody's going to come to the realization that we need help here in opening a strait that does provide 25% of global trade. I mean, it's everyone's best interest to have the Strait of Hormuz open. March 16th, U.S. allies rebuff Trump. Oh, God. U.S. allies rebuff Trump's request for support in the Strait of Hormuz. Excuse me. Okay, not the answer we wanted to hear. Kind of really hoping everyone would put, past behind us, kind of sit there and say, we've had our differences in the past, but we're allies, we're better friends than enemies. We're going to come to the help of everybody and we're going to come and assist you. No, we're not going to do that. Instead, what we get is the allies rebuff us, but they do say that they're going to provide some escorts in places like the Bab el-Mandeb. Cheers. Pass kind of a precedent here at what's going on with shipping. An old drinking game we did back during when the Red Sea was up and running with viewers on the show. I actually wasn't drinking on the show during that time. This story has gotten me to the point where we're physically drinking on the show now. So the U.S. allies are going to rebuff Trump's request for support. Okay, let's hope it gets better than this. It's got to get better than this. It can't get worse. Trump declares U.S. doesn't need anyone.
Under 10 minutes, you guys.
After allies balk at Hormuz mission. Okay, we went from asking to demanding to refusing. Now we don't need you. I mean, we're going through. Are we going through a breakup? It feels like we're breaking up with everyone. This feels like a breakup. I haven't broken up with anyone in a long time. I've been married a long time, so I don't know if this is what a breakup feels like. It kind of feels that way. Is that what we're doing right now? Okay, all right. Listen, it can't get worse. I mean, it really can't. I mean, it's bad, but it can't get worse. March 18th, Trump floats U.S. withdrawal from Hormuz Strait security rule. Okay. This is like the 7 steps of denial or something like that. I think we're in denial. Now, where are we at now? I don't know. Grieving. I don't know what we're in right now, but we're getting there. So now we're like, okay, not our job. It's going to be somebody else's job. This is again, I'm thinking about the merchant mariners stuck in the Persian Gulf right now. 3,200 ships, 20,000 mariners. And now, hey, we're going to come to the end of the month. Now we're not coming to the end of the month. We're going to ask allies. The allies aren't coming. This is getting to worry me a little bit. It's starting to worry me a little bit. All right, let's keep going here. March 19th, Trump waives the Jones Act for 60 days. Shipping interest says it won't help lower gas prices. Okay. Why waive the Jones Act? I mean, we're trying to open the Strait of Hormuz. Why are you waiving a law that deals with the movement of cargo in and around the United States? Well, that's because the focus has shifted. The focus here is not so much to open the Strait of Hormuz, but to get gas prices in the U.S. down. Gas prices have jumped. In case you have noticed, in the United States, they're up about 90 cents a gallon. We are seeing probably the highest gas we're ever going to see here because of this. And so one of the things that they're trying to do is lower the cost of gas in the United States. And one of the ways they want to do that is by flooding the market with gasoline, particularly oil, WTI oil, West Texas oil, and get it transported throughout the region and move gasoline faster and quicker to offset any cost. Because the problem is, while we don't get a lot of oil out of the Persian Gulf, we do get some, by the way. We do get some, and we'll talk about that. But because this oil isn't flowing out of the Persian Gulf, and not just oil, but fertilizer, gasoline, aviation fuel, they're pulling it from other places, and they're pulling it from the U.S. When you pull that out of the United States, that causes our prices to go up. All right, then we get this. Inaction is not an option. The IMO, International Maritime Organization, condemns Hormuz attacks as crisis deepens. Thank the Lord. The IMO has responded to this. I am being absolutely facetious with you right now. I am not sincere in this at all. The IMO tries very hard. They really do. They try very, very hard. But if you look at their track record in the Black Sea with Russia, Ukraine, you look at their track record in the Red Sea between the Houthis and everyone the Houthis attacked, which largely weren't Israelis, by the way, it wasn't great. I mean, they just did not move the needle at all. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad Arsenio Dominguez is pushing this through the meeting that was held up in London on March 18th and 19th. However, I don't think it's going to do enough to cause anybody to free up the ships in the Persian Gulf. All right, takes us to March 20th. Trump signals endgame in Iran, says Hormuz security will fall on nations who use it. All right, President Trump came out and said, we don't use the strait. It's somebody else's problem. Okay, that's wrong. I'm sorry. I don't mean to second guess a president of the United States, but that is not an accurate statement. We get about 200 million barrels of oil out of the Persian Gulf. Go look at the EEI reports. We have statistics that show you how much oil we get out of this. Now, there's 20 million barrels a day comes out of the Persian Gulf. We get about 10 days worth of that oil. So it's not a lot. It's 2-3% that comes out. But a lot of that is refined product because our refinery capacity isn't what it needs to be. So we get a lot of different things that come out of there. So, yeah, we get a small amount. But the problem is because we've cut 25% off for everybody else, it's causing our market to go up. We're seeing that bunker fuel, the cost of fuel ships is doubled. Aviation fuel through the roof. This is going to have knock-on effects throughout the entire supply chain system. You can't sit there and go to war with Iran. I know we didn't go to war. I understand that. Stop saying that. I got it. It's a conflict. We don't declare war. Haven't declared war since 1942. Israeli and the United States and Iran go into a conflict, but the offshoot is the Strait of Hormuz is the secondary target here. But at the same time now, the U.S. mission is to decapitate the government of Iran, destroy the military. But their third one is to keep the strait open, but they're not doing that yet because they don't have enough forces in place. And what's happening here now is the de facto control of the Strait of Hormuz is shifting over to Iran. Iran has set up a toll booth at the Strait of Hormuz between Larkham and Kishim Island. You can go through that little gate right there, pay yourself $2 million, and you're good to go. That kind of means Iran is controlling the strait. They haven't dropped mines. They're not really being very elaborate in their attacks. Yes, we've seen somewhere in the range of 20 plus attacks on shipping, but we really haven't seen them use their guided missiles, ballistic missiles. It's been drones largely that they're being used. But what we don't see is really the U.S. presence in and around the Strait of Hormuz or any allied presence in and around that area. But with President Trump now saying the nations who use it, that's going to be a bit of a problem because we got to see them step up. And we're starting to see that with the G7, and certain nations are saying that they're coming around to this. But again, we're 3 weeks into this conflict and everything is jammed up. Then we come to the final story. Trump administration unlocks sanctioned Iranian oil at sea as Hormuz crisis strains markets. Okay. Hang on. No. It's not strong enough. Oh. Fortunately, over the years, I've built up a stockpile. Oh, that's a spot. I'm worried about my liver doing this show. I'm not going to lie. I'm very concerned that this could be irreparable damage I'm doing to myself. Just come back to that story for a second. The Trump administration has unlocked sanctioned Iranian oil. We've sanctioned Iranian oil since 2015. It goes across multiple presidents, different parties. We've sanctioned Iranian oil. The whole heart of this is sanctioned Iranian oil. Yet throughout this crisis, Iran has been loading oil. Matter of fact, there are two very large crude carriers sitting at Karg Island right now, loading 4 million barrels of oil. This is per tanker trackers. That is $400 million they're going to make. Iranian oil, which largely goes to China, because don't even think that this is going to alleviate gas in the United States. But under this provision, you can sail an Iranian tanker to the United States and offload it. And it's fine. You could do that. I mean, it's how surreal is that? Not only that, not only can you offload the oil in the United States, but if you want to, you could pick up a new load of oil in the United States, go to another U.S. port and drop it off. Why? Because we waived the Jones Act. This is friggin' nuts. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't understand this policy at all. If our policy is against Iran and we're trying to get Iran not to be the dominant force here in the Persian Gulf, we're doing everything we can to make them the dominant force in the Persian Gulf. I think we need to relook at strategy here. I think we need a serious look at the ships that are trapped in the Persian Gulf. And I think we need to understand that, listen, allies, we need to have a sit down and figure out how are we going to get the traffic flow back open here? Because the longer this thing stays clamped down, the more damage we're doing. My analogy, I've used it all the time, I know you're probably tired of hearing it by now, is that map of the marine traffic that shows you the world. That's the circulatory system of the world. We have got a clamp on the femoral artery of one of our legs, clamping off 25% of our trade. If you don't unclamp that, you are going to do permanent damage. Understand, it is going to, if tomorrow President Trump and the new Ayatollah hug and make up and traffic flows back up to full levels tomorrow, it is going to take weeks, 20 weeks at least, to set everything back in place. You have caused disruptions through at least half a year through 2026. That is where we're at right now. And that is my concern, let alone the physical damage, the lives being lost here. I mean, it's a war. It's tragic. It's tragic on multiple levels. But we need to be thinking about what is going on here. And I don't ever mean to diminish that. My focus is on global shipping. There's a lot of others who focus on the other aspects of the war. But for me, this is the issue that is resonating with me right now. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We're going to go back.
Okay, I hope some people liked him and some people didn't. But yep, Flying Eagle was right. We gotta, we can't always have it our side. We have to listen to the other side. It wasn't too bad. So I got 2 Benny videos, 10-minute ones, and I got 5 1-minute videos from the California lady. Okay.
Following recent revelations that indicate very serious crimes involving corruption, money laundering, and a criminal organization. The task force led by VP Vance indicates that Newsom is the head of a network that harmed millions of Americans and caused billions of dollars to disappear from public funds, including federal money. Once he resigns, he will have to answer for where all those billions went, including more than 2,000 contracts he awarded that provided no services to our state while the money disappeared. He spent $35 billion to build a railway that has been stalled for more than 4 years, yet the billions were still spent. An independent audit indicated that the money was embezzled, and Newsom never provided clear answers about the whereabouts of all those billions he spent on this supposed railroad, or was it a pretext to divert funds? Or could it involve the governor's residence? Not the official one, but another property that doesn't appear in public records, owned by Newsom's cousin, a public employee who has a mansion valued at more than $20 million in his name. Reports claim that an underground bunker was found inside that mansion in San Diego, where millions of dollars were hidden, the same property that Newsom used to host associates, including Hollywood figures such as actor Mark Ruffalo, who reportedly received a multi-million-dollar contract with the government to defend him on social media. If Newsom does resign now, it will only bring forward the inevitable prison, because after so many of fraud and misuse of funds, many believe he should face the maximum penalty. I doubt you can point to another governor tied to a fraud on this scale, totaling $400 billion, according to findings cited by VP Vance's task force. It's no surprise that our state has been called the fraud capital of America. I'm Fernanda Perez-Riley, and I'll say it again. These individuals need to requested the arrest of Democratic Senator Schumer after he attempted to bribe FBI agents from the New York office to gain access to evidence from federal investigations in the state. My dear friends, Schumer is desperate. This task force, led by VP Vance, even uncovered a mistress of the senator who was blackmailing him, threatening to cut a deal with the feds and hand over more hidden information that could end his political career and send Schumer straight to jail. There are reports that Schumer offered $1 million to a senior FBI investigator to destroy the evidence. But here's the kicker. He was already being monitored. They recorded the Democratic senator offering that money to the investigator. Now, all that's left is for the judge to issue the warrant. This is not the first time he tried to bribe a federal agent. Back in September 2024, Chuck Schumer was caught with former Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen trying to negotiate the release of a luxury apartment belonging to one of his silent associates, which had been confiscated by the Treasury Department in 2020. At the time, it was said Schumer was under pressure to recover that property or things could get very messy for him. And now, with the real possibility of Chuck Schumer doing time, and let's be honest, he doesn't have that much time, does he? All these scandals are piling up. From negotiating federal funds in Congress, acting as a lobbyist favoring his donors, to influencing public contracts that were handed to shady companies in New York, costing the state billions. My dears, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Schumer. I am Fernanda.
Okay, two more.
Wife after transactions were identified that indicated concealment of assets and embezzlement. I am Fernanda Perez-Riley, and you need to know this. Some time ago, we reported on Newsom regarding a contract with a film production company linked to Jennifer Siebel, the governor's wife, which received a multi-million-dollar contract to produce a film telling the governor's life story. An absurd $200 million of taxpayer money was invested to tell the story of this man. Well, the company in question received all that money, and to this day, that supposed film has not even been produced. The money was never returned, while Gavin Newsom's family increased their assets by 500% and purchased a mansion in San Diego that the governor uses for private parties with celebrities who began earning millions to defend him on social media. And now Newsom's own wife may have her accounts frozen and will have to explain this increase in assets, which appears inconsistent with her income. It's not money from investments. It's embezzlement, money taken from your taxes and used to fund a lavish lifestyle. I had warned that Newsom was using his wife as a front to launder public money, and now VP Vance's task force claims to have confirmed what I always suspected. The governor's entire family is involved in these schemes. The task force...
Okay, one more. Then the last two will be Benny. Oh, wait. We got two. This one, I got one of the other lady.
With money and drugs to homeless people in California, mainly in my city of Los Angeles, as the Democratic government made sure to leave LA in such bad condition that they used these people for their political ambitions. All of this was to try to keep Democrats in power in California because they're totally desperate. My love, Harris and Newsom are so close to being arrested that they went as far as bribing these people with drugs and money to obtain voter registrations and signatures on petitions. The VP's task force caught Newsom administration employees approaching homeless people on the streets of LA, including individuals being encouraged to use fake addresses to sign petitions and register to vote. 88 Newsom government employees were caught bribing thousands of homeless people with money and drugs. In hidden camera footage, people collecting signatures admitted to receiving between $100 and $150 per signature. The Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, which distributes federal money to the Weinbart Center, a service provider for homeless people in Los Angeles, was also mentioned. An employee was caught on video directing people to where petition organizers were and explaining how to maintain plausible deniability. I am Fernanda Perez-Riley, and we are talking about a serious federal crime.
Okay, let's see where that one is. Oh. Where is that one at? All right, we're going to get the last two Benny videos.
IULs provide a death benefit.
We've been banging on about the same
11-11.
But here's another 90-10 issue. Here's another issue that like cuts directly in our favor to eliminate fraud. And we'd really like to shine the spotlight back on it because it's as big of a winning issue as voter ID. They're both fraud, obviously. And it's both from the same communities, right?
Well, look, the president has appointed the vice president, J.D. Vance, to oversee a fraud commission. You have Dr. Oz and CMS actually cracking down and demanding answers from New York, from California, from Minnesota to actually start getting the information they need to root this out and implement the changes that we made in the Working Families Tax Cut bill to require eligibility verification, citizenship verification, work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependent children, so that Medicaid, for instance, is focused on the people who really need it. Single moms with young children, our seniors who are, below the poverty level, the IDD community. We want to make sure that anybody with a disability that needs this support, that they have it. But this system, the Medicaid system in particular, has grown exponentially, especially under Joe Biden. It is unsustainable at the rates that it was going. And so we're reining it in. We're demanding answers. Even Democrats like Tom DiNapoli, as I say, putting out a report exposing the fraud in New York, saying we have a problem here. We're paying for people who don't live in our state. That's how corrupt the system has become. And so it's really incumbent on Congress and the administration to crack down on these states. And it's also incumbent on state legislators to start asking questions and demanding answers from these governors and how their money is being spent at a state level, because a lot of these programs are both federal and state funded.
Do you think that they'll get away with it? The census is coming up. I mean, I don't know exactly when they start counting heads, but the 2030 is the implementation of the census, and 2030 is a new map. So I'd assume that the census would take place then in 2028, right?
You'll have the census start being counted in advance of 2030. You'll get the 2030 census numbers, and then obviously the redistricting process will take place heading into 2032, which will be another presidential election year by that point. But we deal with this every 10 years. President Trump obviously was in control of the census in 2018, 2019, heading into 2020, which was critical to actually have a fair and honest accounting. If the Democrats win in 2028, they will be in charge of the census, and they will do everything they can to make sure that New York and California, that they are counting every illegal, they are counting everybody that is homeless out on the streets. They will do everything in their power to make sure that they keep congressional seats in New York and California, even if they really should not be getting them, especially because of illegal immigrants. I have a bill that would prevent illegals from being counted for the purpose of reapportionment. They should not count towards redistricting, period.
So why is that even remotely controversial? I'm aware of how the Constitution, I'm aware of how the original documents are written to count peoples and not citizens. I get as why they wrote it hundreds of years ago like that. It seems like that in the modern day, that's sort of like an archaic slavery holdover, right, for southern states. Now that's been moved clearly to benefit states that have illegal criminal aliens as much as possible. Seems like it shouldn't be controversial.
Listen, again, to get a full count, on the census, great, count everybody. But for the purpose of reapportionment, the only people that should be counted are citizens and lawful immigrants. Somebody who's here illegally should not be counted. And that is the problem with New York and California. They have rigged the system. They've done it for years. The only reason this is controversial is because Democrats know that if this were to change, if illegals were not counted in the census, it would be lights out in some of these states when it comes to their electoral power. And that's why they are so opposed to it. That's why Chuck Schumer is screaming about the Save America Act and saying that it's the most disastrous legislation ever. Chuck Schumer is the biggest jackass in America. He is so dishonest. It is disgraceful that Chuck Schumer is the United States Senator from New York. He's been in elected office since 1975. He was first elected during Watergate in 1974. Chuck Schumer has never held a job outside of elected office, first the state assembly, then the United States House of Representatives, now the U.S. Senate. He is disgraceful and disgusting, and he needs to go home.
He's clearly going to go home to a home, hopefully that's not in Palm Beach. I find it remarkable how it's like, how Pelosi is buying property in Florida, right? But also to a home in New York that's really degraded. We have this map here that shows the potential census count for New York, and New York losing 2, 3 maybe seats. You said that New York's been losing seats, 2 every couple of census. California, all red states, man. All red states getting just like all blue states getting gutted. They're red on the map here because they're losing seats. And then all red states are gaining seats.
But look at that map, and you see Texas and Florida in particular picking up 8 seats. That means a 16 vote swing on electoral votes right there, because they're gaining them from blue states. And you can see heading into 2032 presidential election, Democrats are in real trouble when it comes to the Electoral College and when it comes to the House of Representatives. And you look at the voting rights case that's before the Supreme Court, that's going to result in probably another 19 seats that are going to move away from Democrats. So you're talking upwards, potentially, when all is said and done, of 25 to 30 seats that are going to shift from Democrat to Republican over the next 6 years. And that is going to be a tremendous shift in power away from these blue states, especially on the coast. And that's why they are fighting so hard against any type of reform or oversight or reining in of these sanctuary policies that have allowed illegal immigrants to flood their states, because they know it's the only way they are keeping electoral power.
Man, it's dark. It's dark, man. It's like completely sinister. And we really pray that Republicans can get their act together and realize that we are sitting on the precipice, kind of like the election that sort of pivots the country. I know we always say this, it's always like this every election, but nobody really thought about that with Mitt Romney, right? Like nobody really thought that, Mitt Romney is like, it's going to change, it's either Mitt Romney, 1,000 years of darkness or light. Like nobody really thought that. He's kind of like different shades of Barack Obama. But now it is true. Like we know what Democrats are going to do if they get power again. They've been totally transparent about it. And
they'll eliminate the filibuster if they take the Senate. There's no question about that. They tried to do it last Congress when they had control. Sinema and Manchin were the only thing standing in their way. They will eliminate the filibuster and just try to jam through everything they can the next time they have the trifecta. So look, these elections matter. The margins are tight, especially in the House right now. The map is what it is. There's only about 30 seats that are actually competitive. Mine's one of them. And that's just a reality of the map.
It's going to be, I think that over the course of the next couple of years, that reality is going to be just like painfully reflected to Democrats who betrayed their states. You can see all the people leaving Illinois and California and New York. I just hope that it happens quickly enough that we can get that it can't be rigged. They can't rig it. But I guess we'll see. You're right about what happened in 2020. That's crazy, man, that they were able to like pull one over. DeSantis keeps banging on about how many seats they stole from Florida. And they did. Like the math totally works out. They straight up stole congressional seats from Florida.
No, they could have lost even more in New York and California, especially if illegals weren't counted.
Yeah. We'll keep hitting the bricks and keep telling as many people as possible
I'm gonna wrap it up, you guys. So I did with Benny there. So we had a good day of intel. And tomorrow is the 23rd, and they're saying something this another timeline they're saying. So we'll see how this week goes. Our last week of March. So everybody have a good work week Monday, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. I might just do one. Unless we get some big news. If I get any more big videos, I'll come on. So, God bless everybody. Hello, please hit like, sub to the backup channels in the description box. Thank you. Stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith. And there we go up. Gary, good to see you back. Glad you found me again. And Maj, hey, Michael, Lucy, Tim, and Carol. We'll see you all tomorrow evening unless something comes up. Everybody have a good day tomorrow. We'll see you another day.